Yeah, I mean, I have to say, we were talking about this before. Like 7 years ago, I was a no-name 34-year-old government employee who decided to do a crazy thing of running for Congress. And pretty much everyone I talked to in politics didn't think I had a chance. Because this congressional district was, I'm a Democrat. This congressional district was a deep Republican district. I was going up against somebody who was a sitting congressman. And so people said, no way you can do this. Especially because that congressman was very wealthy, one of the wealthiest members of Congress in the country. And I was a 34-year-old still paying off student loans, so big difference there. But, Judy just immediately jumped in and said, what can I do to help? And I remember very much that, that very first fundraiser that we did, that a few of you I think were at. Thank you. And I think that that's something that it's great. It's hard to think that that was only 7 years ago, because a lot has happened in our country ever since. But I've also really grown a lot and understood what it is that I can try to bring to the table. I come from humble roots, as many of us do. Many of you know my parents, my family, and this community that raised me, that I'm a public school kid from right here in this county. I never imagined growing up here that I would have the chance to stand before you as a congressman and now as a candidate for the United States Senate. I am the first Korean American.
Yay!
I am the first Korean American to even run for Senate, let alone be a major candidate. And right now I'm currently leading in the polls to be able to win this. There's a real chance that we can do this. But beyond just the issue about can I win, I want to explain to you why I'm doing this. Because I think that that's so important. Sometimes it gets lost. A lot of these articles written about the race, they're writing about, who won this convention or who's leading in the polls here. But I think what we lose sight of in this country right now is, what does politics actually mean? I remember I was, my very first race, I was going to a Korean American church here in South Jersey just before Election Day. And I wanted to go there because I wanted to try to encourage, any of the Korean Americans there that live in my district to come out and support in the election. So this was 2 days before my very first election. And I remember I was talking to a lot of different people, and this one Ajuma, she came up to me and she was so excited. She was like, wow, I live here in Mount Laurel, you could be my congressman. I'm so excited that you could be my congressman. And I was like, oh, that's really nice to hear. And she's like, and I was like, make sure you get out there and vote. And she was just like, oh, I'm not registered. And she said it with a smile. She's like, I'm not registered. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, I'm not into politics. And that really stuck with me, because there were 0 Korean Americans in Congress at that time. And here is someone who has the chance to elect the very first Korean American Democrat in the history of this country, and certainly the first from the entire East Coast of America. But still, that was not enough incentive to get her to register to vote. And so, I talked to her, and she was just saying, I'm not political. The way she talked about it made it sound like she thinks that politics is kind of like sports. 2 teams going up against each other, and she's like, I'm not really into that. But I wish I could have that moment over again, because I wish I could do a do-over and talk to her again. Because if I did, I think I would have wanted to say, the Medicare that you have for your health care, that's politics. The education that I got as a public school kid, that's politics. The fact that America, including the United States Congress, changed our immigration policies several decades ago to be able to allow Korean Americans to be able to come into this country at greater numbers, that allow for my parents to be able to come in. That's politics. That my father is someone who got a scholarship to study in the United States, and that was money that was appropriated by the federal government to be able to encourage and strengthen ties between South Korea and the United States after the war. Those were predecessors of mine in Congress that made those decisions. That's politics. So look, I get it. Many of you know my parents. They're not the most political people. I did not grow up talking about politics at the dining room table. We were not a family that talked about Democrats or Republicans or presidential races. We were just living our lives. In fact, oftentimes I think I was told that, in many times, maybe not be too loud about your politics because, maybe it would offend somebody else and maybe get you in some trouble. So I was actually kind of taught not to really engage, not to really talk too loudly about politics. And I'll be honest with you, I think many of us in the Korean American and Asian American community can kind of relate to that. But what I'll say is that what we learn is that you can't assume that someone else is going to fight your fights for you. Many of us are here because of the politics of those before us. Like, why is it that my parents chose Burlington County, chose South Jersey? They chose this because it's a safe place with good schools. Well, what keeps our community safe? What are the policies and what are the resources that keep our community safe? What are the decisions and the resources and the money that gives us good public schools, good teachers? So I say that to you because I think now more than ever, the Korean community cannot be on the sidelines. That we have to have a seat at the table. We have to have a voice in the room. Just last year, I gathered with Korean Americans all over this country to celebrate the 120th anniversary of the first Koreans coming to the United States. The first Koreans to be able to touch down in Hawaii. And it was an amazing experience, and I got to go and bring my mom to the White House to be able to be there for the state dinner with the president from Korea who came for this incredible meal to symbolize the bond and the relationship between the United States and South Korea. About the 70th anniversary of the armistice. So there's so much happening. And it just really hit me how far the Korean community has gotten here in the United States. But even still, after 120 years, I am the very first person of Korean descent in this nation of 330 million people. The first one to even run for the United States Senate. I hope that conveys to you what this means, because I'll tell you, it is something I think about a lot. I am not running to be a senator solely for the purpose of being the first Korean American senator in America, but I recognize the responsibility that comes with taking this on. It is a humbling experience, being a son of immigrants, a public school kid, that even has a chance to be able to do this. I mean, the United States Senate is the highest deliberative body in our country. Only 100 people out of 330 million people making these decisions. And it is a big jump for me to conceptualize it in my own mind. Am I ready for this? I always ask. But when I see what this means for Korean Americans all over the country, especially some of our young Korean Americans, it reminds me that this is why our parents came here. This is why you immigrated, or if your parents were the ones that immigrated. Isn't that it? You know, my parents, they said that they came here because they wanted to give me and my sister opportunity. They wanted to give us a place where we could thrive. And now I feel that too. I'm a father of two boys. Many of you, some of you have met my kids. I have a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old, a first grader and a third grader. All I want for them is the same dream that my parents had, which is a better life and more opportunities. safe communities and good schools. That's all I want. I want my kids to grow up in an America where anything is possible. And I feel like I can really bring that to another level by showing that Korean Americans, we can work at the highest levels. And not just represent there, that we can represent anyone in this country. Like this congressional, this room right here is actually where I was on election night for my second election. My first re-election was here.
Really?
Yes, it was right here. Because if you remember, that was during the pandemic. So we weren't able to have big gatherings, so we gathered here just for my team, just a small gathering on election night. So I was thinking about that when I walked in here. And I was thinking about that experience that it's been of being in Congress and working for this nation. But at that time that I won this re-election in 2020, my congressional district was 85% white, less than 3% Asian, less than 1% Korean American. That's the demographics in my congressional district. And that's why a lot of people told me that it was impossible for me to win, because they said, you're an Asian American. You can't win in a district where 85% of the people are white and less than 99% of the people are not Korean American. How do you think you're gonna win that? You know, this isn't Flushing, New York, or Los Angeles, or Orange County. And as I told you, at that time, I was the only Korean American in Congress at the time. But what I learned and what I think is important is that I try to say that I have every bit as much right to represent this district as anybody else. And in that same vein, I have every bit as much right to represent the state of New Jersey as anybody else. I'm not going to let people determine what I am or am not capable of accomplishing simply because of the color of my skin and my last name. I get it. New Jersey, we're about 13% Asian American. So a lot of people say, again, you don't have a chance because the vast majority of people in this state don't look like you. And I've had a lot of people say that you know, that I'm the wrong kind of minority. They're like, you know, you're not going to be the kind of guy that's going to be able to make it in the big leagues. But I want to believe in America where, again, everyone has that chance and that opportunity. And I'll tell you, it will be a very proud day if I can pull this off and be able to show my kids and other, you know, young Korean Americans and Asian Americans that anything is possible in this country. You gotta work for it. You gotta try hard for it. And I believe in it. I believe in it. Now look, I cannot look you in the eye right now and guarantee you that I will win. You know, I cannot tell you that I'm destined, that will inevitably and guarantee be the next senator from New Jersey. But what I can do is tell you I'm going to work my hardest. And I think many of you have seen what my hard work means. I will outwork everybody. And that's how I've been able to win 3 elections before. That's how I was able to get, you know, to be a diplomat before. That's how I became a Rhodes Scholar. Every stage, it's about that hard work. And that's something that I will always try to put out there on the table. So look, this one is the hardest campaign of my life. And I have about 72, 73 days to go until June 4th, which is the primary. And if I win on June 4th, I can basically guarantee you at that point that I will be the next senator because I have been one of the best performing Democrats going up against Republicans, not only in New Jersey, but in the country. But we have to get through June 4th first, which is why I'm just so grateful for your help. This is not easy. This is a very dramatic and complicated primary. As mentioned, I am literally running against the most powerful political family in the entire state of New Jersey. I'm running against the First Lady of New Jersey, the wife of the sitting governor. Never in American history before has the spouse of a sitting governor run for statewide office at the exact same time. This is a very complicated situation. And because she's running and because her husband's the governor, she's gotten a lot of the support from the very top level political leadership and the biggest donors in the state and in this country. So I understand. There's a challenge. But what I've also come to feel and see over the last 5 months or so is that people want to be able to make up their own minds about who to vote for. They don't want to be told who to vote for. And I'll be honest, right now in this climate in America, people don't want just some rotating musical chairs of the most powerful families in politics. People want a politics and a government that looks a lot more like the rest of America. They want people in leadership that have shown that they can get there on their own merits, that they have the experience to be able to do this, and that they know what it takes right now in this very scary time in American history to try to move us in a better direction. As I told you, I'm a father of a 6-year-old and 8-year-old, and I worry about what kind of America my kids are growing up in. You see the crises and the conflicts. I was there on January 6th. I watched Americans fighting other Americans inside the United States Capitol. It was one of the most horrific things we had ever seen in modern history of this nation. I don't want my kids to grow up in that kind of America. I don't want my kids to grow up in an America with this much chaos. So I'm trying to change. But again, I can't do it on my own. I have a real shot to be able to win this, and I'm really excited about that. And as I'm telling you, the latest polling has me in the lead. But we have to make sure that we get the message out. We have to make sure that everybody in New Jersey who goes and votes on June 4th is gonna know who I am and gonna support what it is that I'm trying to bring to the table. And a big part of that is also by making sure that every single Asian American, every single Korean American in this state understands what's at stake and understands that there's a historic opportunity for us as a community to make sure that we have a seat at the most exclusive table and powerful table in this country. I told you if elected, I'd be the first Korean American ever elected to the U.S. Senate, but I would also be the first Asian American elected to the U.S. Senate from the entire East Coast of America. So for those of you coming in from Philadelphia or elsewhere, it isn't just about New Jersey. That we have only 100 senators in this country right now, and we're all in the same boat. You see how crazy our politics are right now. What happens here in New Jersey and who we elect affects people in Pennsylvania, affects people in New York, affects people out in California, all over this country. We're all in the same boat. So I hope you see in me that next generation of leadership that our country so badly needs right now. Someone who will bring much needed diversity, not just for diversity's sake, but be able to share my story and show that my story is not just a Korean American story or an Asian American story, but my story is fundamentally an American story. And be able to show that at the highest levels. Be able to show 330 million people that a Korean American can be somebody that can represent them and their families and do it in a good and decent way. And be able to make sure that my kids and your grandkids' generation, that they grew up seeing Korean Americans and Asian Americans in the most powerful jobs in this nation and recognizing that this is a country that accepts us, this is a country where we belong, and this is a country where we can thrive. That's what I want them to see. And we have to make sure that we do everything we can to recognize that this is our moment. And I truly do believe that this next 10 years is perhaps going to be the most exciting and dynamic decade of Korean Americans and Asian Americans in this country. Look at how we have leadership in the business world and technology. You got the top leaders in business and arts and entertainment and so many other industries. And now hopefully in politics and leadership in our government. And I think that this is a transformative decade for the Korean American community in this country. And I'm excited about that. I really am.
Yay!
And to know that we can be potentially making a big difference from right here in South Jersey. You know, this is not the place where, you know, someone would probably choose to or would expect that the first Korean American senator would come from. Maybe not necessarily think it would be from South Jersey. But again, we show that it doesn't matter. You know, that I have every bit as much right to do this as anybody else. And Korean Americans all over this country, doesn't matter what communities they live in, we have as as much to be able to offer this country as anybody else. So look, I'm humbled by this chance to stand before you. Many of you have known, some of you have known me since I was a little kid. And I hope that I have made you and the broader Korean American community and Asian American community proud. But I'm excited because on June 4th and this November and going forward for hopefully a long time to come, I hope to continue to make you proud. Thank you, everybody.
네, 우리 한국 사람이라면은 우리 한국 잘 되는 게 좋죠. 그 다음에 또 이곳에서 우리 앤디 기경처럼 상원의회 한번 나서면은 우리 어디 가든지 제가 이 농사 교육을 가면은 우리 여러 사람들이 있는데서 한국 그냥 얼마나 지금 뜨는지 몰라요. 뭐든지 수입도 중국, 그 다음에 저메, 그 다음에 한국에. 그래서 프라이드를 가요. 그래서 우리 앤디 킴처럼 이렇게 우리 한국 사람이 이렇게 났었다는 거, 천리길도 쫓아가야 될 그런 형편이잖아요. 정말 자랑스럽고 우리 앤디 킴 위해서 박수 한번 칩시다.
오케이, 알겠습니다. 우리 차 박사님,
만나서 반갑습니다.
Dr. Little Cha, cardiologist.
I spoke like this like 6 years ago. I don't know if you remember. There's no doubt we're gonna win. We're gonna make us proud. We're gonna make our parents proud. We're gonna make Korea proud. What's important for this year is, believe it or not, I'm still concerned about Trump. Is shaking up the foundation of America, integrity of America, as well as our belief of Americans. You cannot teach our kids and grandkids that be honest, the best you can be, and do not cheat anybody, and but still you become a president. I cannot have how to teach, what to teach. So I'm asking the same thing. You go there, fight. Keep the America as it is. The best of the world. All right?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, Mr. Kim. So, it's such an honor to
Mr.
see
Kim. Congressman Kim.
I was gonna just say Andy.
that's great.
Andy Kim, Andy Kim, Andy Kim, Andy Kim.
So, anyways, it's such a huge honor to see a Korean American politician going through the ways of the American government system, and like it's such a huge honor to be here. But I have some questions for you. So, what inspired you to become a politician?
Yeah, well, I can do that in my remarks. Why don't you just tell me your questions and I can, I'll make sure I talk about it.
Okay, and for the last one, do you have any words to the Korean people that are looking up to you in Korea? And since you're a Korean American politician, it's like very uplifting to see a Korean American politician going through the ways of the Senate. So, do you have any words for these people?
Yeah, no, thank you. I'll make sure I touch it.
Great. Don't